Let me just speak to you for a few minutes from my perspective, both here in Texas, but also as president of the National Conference of Chief Justices, which of course have been dealing with um, the pandemic throughout the past year plus and the needs of the legal aid community in that regard. The end of the pandemic seems within sight, but the end of the effects of it are nowhere near in sight. We're not even sure exactly what they're going to be. You know, a hurricane blows through, and that's a disaster, but it's just the beginning of the disaster. It's the aftermath that continues to challenge people as they try to rebuild their lives from the storm that's just hit. That'll be true with this storm, this viral storm as well. There'll be lasting changes in procedures. We already know that remote proceedings have been widely used throughout the United States in courts of every stripe, and they have not only changed the way we do business in the state courts, they've changed the very structure of our operations, and that will only continue to evolve. Legal aid must continue to assess how that affects them and how they can participate in using the remote proceedings to provide better legal services to their clients. We've found throughout the country that the use of remote proceedings improves participation in legal proceedings. Parties who could not take off work, who could not afford the expense of going to court and sitting all day, now routinely participate in court hearings. One of our judges north of Dallas has estimated that the participation in her court in family matters has increased 80% over the last several months. There is the challenge of the digital divide. How can we make sure that the technological resources are available to people to do that and do not act as an impediment, as an obstacle to participating? But those are challenges that we will need to begin to work on as time passes. Just as big a challenge will be the backlogs. Just to give you an example, in 2019, Texas courts tried 9,000 cases to verdict, 9,000. From March of last year through March of this year, we tried about 200 versus 9,000. What are we? Maybe 3 years behind, maybe 4. We're not so sure. And the same thing is true throughout the country. It was not for want of trying. Courts made every effort throughout the country to convene juries and to do it safely, but it has been a very difficult process. In the next few weeks, courts across the country will be beginning, some already are, to try more cases, to try more jury trials. And that will begin to work through the backlog of those cases. But we anticipate that debt collection cases are going to increase. Filings have been down now for several months, but they're already trending up. Evictions that we've already talked about with the moratoria ending, and the CDC moratorium having been challenged. We have those challenges facing us. We have diversion funding for eviction diversion programs, but eventually that money will come to an end unless those programs are refunded. And then we have the effects on housing generally as the eventual relocations and strains take their toll. In all of this, with all of these struggles, with the post-pandemic consequences following us, funding is down. Texas IOLTA revenue is down $700,000 a month. Other states are in the same situation. Filing fees have been down. That funds many legal aid programs throughout the country. Though they're coming back up, they've been down. State appropriations is a mixed bag. Here in Texas, Governor Abbott provided $4.2 million from the first CARES Act money for legal aid last fall. That speaks volumes about the bipartisan extra-legal credibility and respect that LSC and Access to Justice have built and earned in the last several years. Other states are seeking local appropriations as well, but in almost every instance, it's less than the loss from IOLTA. And then, I know you're going to be talking about this some later on this afternoon, but there are disasters within disasters. And in the middle of a pandemic, Texas had a winter storm that almost unbelievably, well, completely unbelievably, shut down power throughout the state and resulted in a loss of water supply. A friend of mine in Vancouver, a judge up there, called me during the middle of the storm when I was sitting in a 40-degree house shivering, telling me about how he was in Canada, sitting next to his fireplace, enjoying a cocktail. It was cruel. But those kinds of crises have taken a toll as well. And there are others throughout the country, state by state, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, that have caused those kinds of problems. They've compounded the crisis in housing problems and the seem like inevitable consumer scams that come in their wake. I know Robert Doggett's going to be talking about that some with you this afternoon. We expect unemployment to worsen. Already 5 million people in Texas have filed for unemployment, and the same is true around the country. The chief justices of the state courts in the United States are deeply committed to guiding their state justice systems through this pandemic. They have worked very hard. We have met constantly. We have done workshops. We have promoted good practices. We have gathered information. We have tried to make sure that the courts remained open and that justice was provided. And we are just as committed to being sure that that access to justice, it does not suffer any more than the pandemic requires as a result of the circumstances that we have been in. We're deeply committed to helping LSC with obtaining funding from the Congress, which, as you have just seen in the video, is very much a bipartisan effort. Again, speaking volumes to the credibility and the absolute gold standard that LSC has become in trying to improve the justice system in the United States. For the Chief Justices, our rapid response team, which we formed at the beginning, is still operating, visiting every week about all of these issues, and will continue to do so. And the National Center for State Courts, which incidentally is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and which we just found out probably will be in person in Williamsburg at the end of July, the first in-person meeting we will have had since the pandemic struck. It continues to assist state courts throughout the country in being sure that the justice system is operational. I know that the Office of Access to Justice Establishment Act of 2021 is either been reintroduced or is about to be reintroduced. And again, it's a bipartisan effort. Chris Murphy, who's a Democrat from Connecticut, and Senator Cornyn, a Republican from Texas, are seeking to have that bill passed and provide a DOJ presence for coordination of legal aid through LSC and other providers. This is no secret. You probably saw in yesterday's NBC story a piece describing the challenges and the efforts that are being made. Ron Flagg was a contributor to it. Paul Furr of Lone Star Legal Aid here in Texas. I know the Texas Access to Justice Foundation contributed. Hawaii was the centerpiece, but it helps inform people of the challenges and the importance of them as we come to what we hope will be the new normal, that's moving ahead, moving out of the pandemic that we have been in. So in all of that, we must be sure that our voice is heard in the Congress, that the need is recognized and embraced, and that we have the support that is crucial, as John just said, to the furtherance of this very, very central value to American life, the cause of justice. It's a great privilege for me to be here with you and to support all of your efforts. Thanks for the invitation.